You're listening to the Storm Report, your weekly insight into the Manchester Storm, brought to you on Storm TV by Matty Finnegan, Max Artis, and Aden Millen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Storm Report, your exclusive podcast about the Manchester Storm here on Storm TV. I'm your host, Matty Finnegan, and joining me, as always, is Max Artis and Aden Millen. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty good, thank you.
I'm smashing, super smashing great.
I think we'd have good reason to be, because I think we had a really good weekend. We are currently fourth in the standings, which is not bad. We've taken 6 points from 6 games so far in the league, and a little bit of an interesting stat is we've scored exactly 25 goals, but can you guess how many we've conceded, Max?
Or seeing as how average the stats are, I think you're going to tell me exactly the same number.
Yeah, I am indeed. 25 goals scored, 25 goals conceded so far in 3 wins and 3 losses. I'm going to talk to you about that in the league because we played 2 league games this previous weekend, didn't we? We had the 7-3 win against the Glasgow Clan and then a 3-2 loss away to Cardiff. We'll start with Glasgow first, Max. How did that game go?
Well, if anybody's gone back and watched the highlights, it was a feast of goals and a feast of activity. Great plays from both teams, but Storm just ran away with it. Absolutely ran away with it. A complete performance, I think, is what Matt Ginn would have said last year. Full 60 minutes, and that's what Mike Flanagan wanted. He wanted a good start in games, and he's got that. And yeah, the goals just flowed from absolutely everybody.
It was the Triple H line specifically, though.
It was. It was indeed. It was indeed.
Yeah, Aden was talking about the new name for that line, of course. Hydem, Hughes, and Heber, Triple H. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll love that one. And they were absolutely out there to destroy in this game against Glasgow. I think there were 3 or 4 goals. I'm counting 3 here on my sheet, if my notes are correct. 3 goals that were just purely from that line, from goal all the way to secondary assist. So they absolutely had fun with it. We had a couple of really high-scoring players on that line. Hughes getting a 6-point game. Heber having a 4-point game, but a 5-point weekend. We were spoilt for choice when it came to selecting player of the match, weren't we?
Oh,
we were. I hate to fact check you though, Matty, but when we were talking about the goals that line got, Heber and Hughes were both on 2 each in the final minute when Glasgow pulled the goalie, and the big question was who will get the hat-trick goal? And it was, of course, Heber. So
there
that line really did do the damage. I think looking at the stats, it was only Hewlett was the only other line. Hewlett's line was the only other line that got a goal. Hynam got 1, Heber got 3, Hughes got 2. They absolutely smashed it.
I will correct myself then, because I think I'm talking more about the player, like just that line specifically, getting the points for a goal that goes in. We had Hynam's first goal, Garcia got in there. That wasn't his only point, because he also assisted the Hewlett goal. A couple of different players involved with Dawu and Noah Carroll getting involved on the goal scoring as well. Also, fun little one that slipped between the cracks. Evan Renninger got an assist on the Hughes goal in the second period.
Oh, you got credited with it.
Picked up on it, yeah, you did.
I didn't announce it. I don't remember announcing it, so that must have been changed afterwards.
I was going to say, might have been credited after the fact.
But yes, a 7-3 win. How's that for confidence, Aden?
Oh, it was great. It was strange, wasn't it? Like after the tough few weeks that we had leading up to the Sheffield game at home, and obviously we got the big game, the big game in Sheffield where we got the win. To see a game that was pretty comfortable from my point of view was really nice to see. And it just felt like, you know, the boys would get a couple of goals. Whenever it looked like they were really going to pull away, Glasgow would get one back on the power play. And that was the pattern that seemed to follow all the way through. But yeah, by and large, a very comfortable game for us, which was it.
I think we're getting pretty consistent now. I think it comes down to we're well over a month in, probably nearly 2 months into the season, and players and lines are going to start to really gel. They're going to start to getting used to each other. They're going to start to know where each other are going to be on the ice. And I think nothing says that more than the amount of goals that the Triple H line, as I'm going to start calling them, we're able to
catch on.
It does need to catch on. If you're watching at home and you end up talking about that line, refer to them as the Triple H line and see the kind of looks that you get.
You know what's going to happen now, though, don't you?
What's that?
Flags is going to mix them up.
Yeah.
Just as we get the name going. So Flags, please, if you're listening, you know, unless they go really off the boil, just keep them together, please.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of our nickname.
I don't think there's any reason to separate them at the minute with the way that they're
No.
playing. I'd strongly doubt if we'd see that this weekend. That wasn't the only game that was played. We also had the 3-2 loss to Cardiff. But how did we play, Aden?
I was really impressed, to be honest. Watching this Storm team over the years, going back a couple of years, we were a team who were historically very good at home, but really struggled away. Really liked our own ice, the smaller ice pad, struggled on the bigger ones, especially against, the bigger teams, the bigger budget teams. So when we watched the game on Saturday, it was so impressive just to see us go toe-to-toe with Cardiff. It wasn't one of those games where we were sat back relying on solid net minding, although that we certainly did get on Saturday night. But we weren't just waiting for the chances to break. We had several power plays, and ultimately, I think it was the special teams that made the difference on the night. It was a very tight game. We had quite a few power play opportunities, including a 5-minute major one, but we couldn't quite make the most of. And then Cardiff did take a couple of theirs. But ultimately, I was very impressed with the performance.
Speaking of being impressed with the performance, Max, talk to me a little bit about Wenninger's game. Obviously, not normally credited with assists and that sort of thing. Normally more dependable in the crease, but equally so. He had a really terrific weekend.
Yeah, from watching back the highlights, it was really was a battle of the netminders in this one. It's to be expected with the quality that both teams have in that position. By the looks of it, Wenninger pretty much had Cardiff in his back pocket for most of the clean shots, most of the goals coming off rebounds and kind of scrappy stuff in front, apart from one clean power play pass to the goal line, out to the bumper spot, and he absolutely roofs it. And even some of the top NHL netminders will struggle with the play like that. But since the start of the season, when everyone had a bit of Wenninger had a bit of a wobble, so did the whole team. He's got himself back onto solid ground and that consistency that we know of him.
I think he definitely reflects the Wenninger that we're used to seeing. Certainly those of us that were around to see how amazing he was last year. And I think it's reflected by the fans. If you use the hashtag StormTV during the game, if you tell us on the webcast who your player of the game is, who your ones to watch are, a lot of people at the moment are saying our number 35. And I think that he's put in a strong contender for player of the weekend. But Max, if you had to choose one player from the weekend, who would you choose?
You can't look past the work of Grant Hibbert. 4 goals over the weekend, 3 in the home game, and got Storm off and running in the game against Cardiff. So for me, it's Grant Hibbert.
A 5-point weekend is obviously tricky to best, but someone did do that, isn't that right, Aden?
Did they? I'm going all Chris Kamara on you, mate. I was like, did they? Who got more points than Hibbert?
Someone definitely did. Well, that someone being Ryan Hughes got 6 points. He only needed to do it in the Glasgow game. We scored 7 goals and he was involved in 6 of them. And I think you cannot have a better game or a better weekend than that. And I think if there was someone I wanted to hear from right this moment for the podcast that comes out right after these games, it would be Ryan Hughes. And that's why I'm very, very proud to announce that we do have Ryan Hughes this week on the pod. So everybody, please welcome Ryan Hughes. Hey everyone, I really hope you're enjoying this podcast. We at Storm TV want to make a show that you guys as fans can feel proud of. And to do that, we need to hear your voices. With the pilot episode alone, we received some great feedback across our socials, with special thanks to those like Greg on YouTube for the advice. You guys hear us, but we hear you too, and your opinion matters, so please let us know what you think of the show by giving us a review, a like, or a comment. Thank you. Ryan, we had a lot of fun when we played Glasgow, chanting your name and cheering every time you got involved on the score sheet. What was it like for you? Talk us through how your game went.
Yeah, that was a fun one to be a part of. I know Tyler and I had been talking recently about maybe chances not going in for us and stuff, and we kind of just kept on saying that eventually it's gonna go in and it's gonna drop, and luckily that day it did in a big way. I can't say I've done that before, so that was a lot of fun.
You've definitely set a standard now. I think some Storm fans might be expecting 6-point performances every single time they see you, so no pressure there. But yeah, it was a very impressive game. I think Can you talk a little bit for me about Grant Heber? Because obviously he had a chance to put up a hat trick, and it was really exciting for everyone in the rink. What was it like for you?
Yeah, Grant's a great player. Obviously, he kind of just he makes it really easy to play with, and you can find him in spots, and he's gonna capitalize. Kind of like that night, I think all three goals were right in front of the net. You can kind of find him there. But yeah, he just kind of he does all the little things right, makes it super easy to play with, and then at the same time he can make plays as well too. So same with Tyler as well. He For the most part we've been playing together, and the three of us we've been clicking pretty good. We've gotten chances, like I said earlier. It hasn't gone in as much as we wanted with the chances that we've been getting, but that day it did, and it was nice to see Grant get rewarded with the hat trick, and then Tyler and I were alongside there with him.
Ryan, a couple of questions from me. Obviously, it was great watching the line click as it did on Friday as a fan. But have you noticed that you've been called the Triple H line now?
I did see that on Twitter, and then the next night in Cardiff, we started, and Flags announced us as the Triple H line. So, and we actually had Chase Harrison on D, so there was four of us actually. So, yeah, no, that's good.
So that's it now. You have to tell Flags that unless you guys stop scoring, you have to stay together now, just so we can keep calling you the Triple H line.
Yeah,
Very
we
important.
if we keep on scoring and we keep on winning, I'm sure we'll stay together.
So a question for you related specifically to the last minute of the game. So yourself and Hiber were both on 2 goals each, and you're going out there and the empty net's beckoning. Were you guys saying to each other, like, I'm going to get the hat trick? No, I'm going to get the hat trick. Like, did you go out there going, right, here's the empty net, here's the chance for me to get the hattie? Tell us about that last minute and how that went.
Um, I don't know. I mean, it was. I didn't even realize the goalie. We were going on the ice, and I didn't even realize they were pulling the goalie. So we actually kind of messed up where we were lined up on the face off. And then after the game, I didn't even know that Grant had 2 goals already. I sometimes that's how it goes. We had 7 on the day, so I kind of figured everyone just had some. But no, it was good that we were all able to get another point on that one, and then he was able to get the hat trick. So no, there was no who's going to get it or anything before going on the ice.
So Ryan, with the win comes the reign of chocolate that happens in Manchester. Quick question from the fans is, who gets to go first and pick out the chocolate, and is anybody kind of jumping the gun for that sort of stuff?
Some of the fans have been pretty good. They know exactly what guys like from the introduction day, so they'll write down names on the chocolate. So if your name's written down, you get that one for sure. And then they kind of just bring it into the room, and it's whoever gets it first grabs it. And yeah, it can be a little bit of a free for all once all that candy comes in there.
I bet you haven't had a chance to finish all of it yet from Glasgow, but probably not from Sheffield either. You've had quite a run of form in the Storm Shelter recently with some back-to-back wins. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that because I think as a whole, the Storm have had a really successful start to the season. It's really uplifting. And then that contrast with yourself saying that you probably wanted some more goals. Or what do you make of your start to the season?
Yeah, I think it's been good. I think we started off really good in preseason, kind of clicking, and then there's been some injuries of late, and I think we had a couple tough games back to back at home. So the chocolate cabinet was empty, and then luckily the last couple have gone our way, and it's starting to be more of a positive vibe around the shelter. But I think we want to try and use it as our advantage. Like as playing against Manchester last year in Guildford, is never you knew it was never going to be an easy night coming into Manchester, small rink, and you knew they were always going to be a tough game to play. So I think we kind of want to try and keep that identity and make it tough on teams when they come here, and kind of use the rink as our advantage.
In that answer, you've actually transitioned quite nicely into my next question. I was going to ask a little bit about Guildford and about the switch. First of all, what were your opinions of Manchester when you played for Guildford? Obviously, you're well experienced in this league now, but yeah, what were your opinions of Manchester?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just come in for the game and get out. So you kind of just see the rink, and you go go in the visitors locker room, and it's all wet and stuff, and it makes it hard to play there, and then you got a tough team to play against. I think that's kind of Manchester's identity is they're gonna work hard, and then they've got the skill and whatever to back it up. So you knew it was never going to be an easy night, and that's kind of what made it appealing to come to Manchester.
You now definitely have part of that identity with you as well. You're someone that it's fun to watch out there because we know that you're always going to be forechecking. You're always going to be out there doing the most. And I think it's been really exciting to see how you've transitioned into that role with Manchester. I wanted to ask you a little bit more personally about what it's like to transition from one team to another in the same league. What's it been like moving from Guildford to Manchester?
Yeah, it's been. I mean, it's always different when you go to a different team, but it's been pretty easy with the guys that are in the room. I know that we have a bunch of returning guys from last year, and they have a close knit group, so they made it pretty easy coming in. They're all good guys, and then with the hockey stuff, I mean, everyone kind of is in the same boat with a new coach and learning all the new things. So I think we've kind of just banded together with that. Um, and then just around the city, I mean, trying to get around, see as much as I can, get familiar with it, and I think I have so far.
You weren't the only player from Guildford to come over. You had a friend in Owen Griffiths. Did that make the transition easier? And also, kind of, who are the guys on the team to kind of really show you around?
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier. And then Zach Milton was with us in Guildford for most of the year last year, so knowing those guys and kind of coming into it together made it a lot easier. And honestly, most all the guys have been great. I mean, I've gone golfing with Cam Critchlow a couple times and Joe Morrow. So, I mean, all the guys have been great. I've been playing with Tyler lots, so bouncing things off of him. CJ Garcia, Evan Winiger, everyone's been really good. So, like I said, they made it pretty easy to come into the room and get familiar with everyone.
You mentioned the golf there. That's what I was just about to ask, because I seem to remember on Meet the Players night, there was mention of the fact that you Guildford boys are keen golfers, and who's winning out of the Flint and Guildford boys?
Owen and we played a couple of times. I think we played together the one time, and I think we tied Joe and Cam. So there's no bloodshed there. And then we played again, and I think I might have got him, if I remember correctly, in his home country as well. We went down to Wales and played, so I got him there.
Well,
So who is the best golfer on the team?
I'd like to say I'm pretty good. If I can't say myself, then Cam's good. Joe's good. I played with Durf. He's pretty good. Everyone's but I'd go with myself if I had to bet on it.
Sounds like we need a tournament at some point over the season.
I was just going to say maybe
charge
that
admission.
Maybe that were a sandbagger or something like Chicklets do.
That'd be good. That'd be fun. I think there's a couple guys that'd be up for it.
Yeah,
it definitely seems like we have some players that are good on the ice and also out on the golf court as well. So thank you very much for joining us this week. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate having me on.
Do you have a business that you want to promote to thousands of people per week? Well, the Storm Report could be the podcast for you. Get in touch and find out how you can sponsor segments, interviews, or even the whole show. Get involved with Manchester's elite ice hockey team by contacting Mark at manchesterstorm.com. That's MARK at manchesterstorm.com. Get involved.
Now, let's have a little look into what's to come this weekend. This is a segment that I like to call What's on the Radar, because absolutely everything has to be Storm themed. I will die on that hill. We have two games to talk about this weekend. We have Coventry in the league, and we have the Panthers in the cup. Both teams came to the Storm shelter in the last month and have taken points off of us. So I would argue that this is quite a big revenge week, Max.
Yeah, I would too. I think Aden's going to jump on the first fixture of the weekend and talk to us a little bit about Coventry. But yeah, two challenging teams, I think, is the way to look at this weekend.
Well,
Absolutely.
the floor's yours, Aden.
Yeah, this Coventry game will be a very interesting one. It's a Coventry Blaze team who, it's fair to say, were underestimated when the season started, and have once again proven something I believe in strongly, is that you shouldn't judge a team until you've seen them on the ice. Because when the rosters were getting put together, when you saw like the new coach of the Coventry Blaze, everyone kind of thought, wow, this could be the team that's propping up the league. Certainly not been the case so far. They've been very impressive. They work really hard. They got really solid net minding. And they picked up a big result away in Belfast at the weekend. Interesting how they didn't make it away to their home game, but then Belfast made it to Nottingham. I'm not quite sure how the flight plans went there, but either way, they got a 1 day a 1 game weekend out of it, and they'll be nice and fresh for coming to our place come Saturday.
Very, very true. I think Coventry have been definitely a big shock so far. I think they definitely shocked us when they came to the Storm Shelter, it being a overtime win for them, if I'm not mistaken. No, shootout. The Coventry game, I believe,
it
was the first shootout that we had this season in the Storm Shelter. It was very exciting to call, but didn't go our way. So as far as I'm concerned, that's another point that we need to get back. 2 points up for grabs in the Storm Shelter. This time around, I want to see the Storm take both of them, because that will really help towards the league standings. But in the Cup, Max, where are we?
We're taking a trip down to Nottingham, down to mine and Aden's kind of stomping ground, my hometown, and where he presides. And we're in the Motorpoint Arena taking on the Nottingham Panthers head coach Danny Stewart and his team. They look more and more impressive each game, if I'm honest, and it's a little bit scary. They've also added a defender, as one of their players has got a bit of a long-term injury to recover from, so they've kind of shored themselves up at the back end. I know a few Storm fans have been asking about, as we have been taking a few injuries ourselves, is anybody going to come in? We kind of have to just wait and see on the news. We're not privy to that here on the podcast as to kind of new players coming in. So kind of have to wait and see what's in the offerings and what's in the works. As for Nottingham themselves, they're just, like I said earlier, they're just getting better and better. And I think they're going to be a real test for the Storm this season.
Yeah, I was very impressed with them when they came to the Storm Shelter in September. Came out 4-0 winners. They were all over us from the opening face-off. We barely got out of our own zone for that first 10 minutes. It's a strange one historically with Panthers, how I often find that they're a lot more comfortable in our building than they do their own. They're a team that can often struggle randomly at home, as we saw on Saturday when they got beat by Dundee. And by all accounts, they were very poor that particular night. And obviously, they hit back very strongly the next day against Belfast. But last couple of years, Storm have had a pretty good record going into the Motorpoint Arena. And I really hope that continues. One thing that I've noticed as well is Panthers have struggled for consistently good net minding season after season. They're constantly putting new guys between the pipes year after year. But they do seem quite happy with Bedard.
Yeah, well, it's kind of their only option. Yeah, that's kind of only their only option right now, because Horvath is still not over here in the UK, as far as I'm aware, suffering with an injury before pre-season, which stalled his flight over to the UK. I'm not sure if they've still got hold of Rok Stojanovic, because he was only on a 2-month contract, so might just be running with the one netminder and Lucas Sheldon as the backup.
Either way, I think Nottingham at the minute are a scary team to come up against. I remember chatting to you before we went live once, Max, saying that I wasn't sure what to think about this Nottingham team. I wasn't sure if they were a team that was going to absolutely run away with the cup and with the games that they were playing, or whether they were going to struggle. And then they've silently, or at least for me silently, all of a sudden risen to the very top. Granted, having played most of their games in the Challenge Cup, they've only played 4 in the league, but they're at the top of the Challenge Cup, and that's the competition we'll be playing them in. So that's a team that we do need to watch out for. And I definitely wouldn't want to play them on the second half of a back-to-back. No,
not at all. Not at all.
But when we try and bring some optimism into this, because I feel like I don't want to big the other teams up too much. I want to talk about what our strengths can be and how we can take points from this. I think you can take confidence from the last couple of weekends. I think you can take confidence from the fact that we did go to overtime and to the shootout against Coventry. I think we have more to prove against Nottingham. I think there was a different team then. We've got some players back. We've got some line mates that are used to playing with each other. And I think there's a bit of momentum that's building with the Storm that we can really push forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, one of the things that has been so impressive for the last few weeks is we have had a lot of injuries. Time was, and a couple of injuries could really sink a team. But we've got so much depth now that you can take a few bodies out of our lineup and we will still be competitive. I think Finner said last week in his interview that, you've not really seen our full team out yet because we've always had some players out injured. And for us to lose Joe Morrow for Saturday's game in Cardiff, and for us still, missing our number one D man, and we still put a really good performance on. So I think that's really encouraging. And when we get everybody back, then I think we will be a sight to behold.
I think if the Ryan Finity interview, if you've not seen it yet, definitely check it out. It will be on YouTube if you're not watching this on there. I definitely have to agree. I think the fact that we've not seen our full strength team and we've put in some really, really good performances so far is really encouraging. And I think we've got a really high ceiling that we've not properly reached yet. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see. It's unconfirmed as of the time of recording this whether or not we're going to have Josh Crawley in the lineup. But I just want to speak a little bit, Max, about how good he's been in kind of deputizing and filling in for players that we have lost.
Well, I think you only have to look back at the interview with Mike Flanagan as to what he thinks of it, and that's the head coach, and he's putting Crawley and Lee and Karayainen, when possible, into situations that can only benefit them and get them into places where they're going to get good experience rather than just kind of thrown to the fire. For young guys like that to be able to step up to this level and not just put a shift in, but be noticeable on the ice and contribute to the plays, etc. And even set up a couple of them. I remember Josh Crawley fought his way through a couple of checks along the boards, even in front of the penalty boxes, to get a puck free and into the neutral zone and try and turn some offense. So they're doing the right things, all of the junior guys that have been called upon.
I think you'd almost expect the younger players to be a bit more timid when it comes to the physicality that is present within ice hockey. But I've been really impressed with the absolute lack of that. I think Josh Crawley in particular has been fearless. But I remember a moment with Connor Lee. Obviously, we fiercely protect him because he's such an exciting prospect up and coming in this league. And I remember he threw a hit in the game against Glasgow, and in the same play took one back, was completely upended. And I was thinking, is there going to be a response here? Is anything going to happen? And he's like laughing and chirping his way to the bench. And I thought that was really interesting because it's a guy that, he might be 17, younger than almost everyone listening to this podcast, no doubt, but he's absolutely not afraid out there. And I love that.
Yeah, I think you kind of forget the age, and he's playing guys 5, 6, even sometimes 10 years his senior, and he is a teenager playing against men, and he doesn't look out of place at all.
No, he doesn't. I think one of the benefits that these guys are getting, they're not coming in when we've only got 2 lines and they're having to play that regular rotation. They're being used quite sparingly, which means that as soon as they go on that ice, they can put one absolute 100%. Into chasing, forechecking. They're there to provide energy and to keep chances out of our net. They're not necessarily there to put up points and score the goals, but they're there to get the energy for the rest of the team, and they're very much doing that very well.
Definitely so. If there's one thing you're going to get from young teenagers, it's going to be energy. So I think it's not a bad shout. Now, enough of what we've been talking about. We asked you guys at home what you wanted us to talk about on this show, and you've responded. Max, what have the people been wanting to know?
So the first one, I think one we can all answer because we've all been up there, is what's upstairs in the changing room?
What's upstairs in the changing room?
People want to know after Robert did his wonderful YouTube video and they've seen that angle. People are wanting to know what's upstairs. Matty, you've been up there a couple of times. Aden, I think you've been up once or twice.
I've been up loads of times.
Exactly.
I've been here for years.
So Matty, you tell us one thing that's up there. Aden, you tell us another thing.
One thing that's up there is the lovely Tom Broadfoot, the team physio. He has his little setup in there. Any of the players that might be needing treatment or after a game just wanting a massage, he's your guy. I'm not saying that you guys should line up outside the door or anything. I'm sure you'd have
Tom
to
might
pay
be
for that
happy
kind
about
of
that.
thing.
Turn up cash in hand, you know. You might do a little side business.
But yeah, one of the things you can find if you ever do manage to find yourself upstairs past the changing rooms is a lovely physio for the Storm.
Yes, another thing you might find is our lovely equipment manager, Scott Glenwright, aka Scoots. He's got all his washing machines and his tumble dryers in a room at the back and his skate sharpener. So you'll often find him beavering away at the back there.
Yeah. It's a room full of stuff, isn't it, Max?
It is a organized chaos, I think is the best way I would put it. Scoots has got his kind of systems set up and whatever, and up there for cleaning, freshen jerseys and practice jerseys and everything else that goes with it. The last thing that I believe is up there, apart from the little kitchenette, is Flags' office, where he goes over video and kind of the tactics for the game, etc. And kind of talks things over with Stats and Mike Morin, the assistant coach, and that's also where we do the post-game interviews with Mike Flanagan, which you can find on the YouTube page.
And he's got his own shower in there as well.
He does.
I only luxurious office.
Yeah, I only noticed that the other week. Always wonder what was behind that door. It was open and it is a ensuite.
I wish I had a shower in my
mystery
office.
solved.
On to a question from Anthony, which is who do you think is the most influential returning player for the Storm?
Oh, yeah, it's a very good question.
I'm going to put one caveat, and we all know that Joe Morrow is a big influential. So I'm going to take Joe Morrow off the table.
That's what I was going to go with.
I know, and I wanted to put it out there. We all know how influential Joe Morrow is. So take that one off the table. Who else?
I've got to load the roster up now.
Not including Joe Morrow. This might be a little bit underrated of an opinion. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say Tyler Hynam, because for me, he was a pick of our forward pack last year, did really, really well. And often, when a player comes in, does really well, they sometimes see greener pastures elsewhere and you don't see them again. So to get Tyler Hynam back is a real statement of intent that we intend to build on last season.
I could echo those points, because I think the point that you made for justifying your choice of Tyler Hynam, you could use almost entirely for Evan Wenninger. I think he's a player that could have absolutely have tried to find greener pastures, but decided to stay and grace us with his goaltending for another season. And I think those two players are definitely influential in the dressing room. They're big personalities in there, and they can get the guys going. But on big personalities, because I haven't made my choice yet, my choice would have to be Lauren Ulett. And I said it might potentially be an opinion you might not expect. But I would say every time that I've noticed there be issues where referees are reviewing something, for example, and you're allowed to have two leaders in the dressing room, go up and kind of be there and kind of deliver a relay, I would say, advice from the referees to the bench. More often than not this season, it's been Lauren Ulett.
It's because it's such an intimidating presence. Have you seen him up close? All he needs to do is just stand and stare at the referee, and his cogs will be turning, thinking, what's the best thing for me to do here?
How do I get out of this situation? But no, I think if intimidating is still influential, is it not? So if the question is who's the most influential, I'm going to go with Lauren Ulett on number 14.
Interesting that you both picked guys that we signed on extension deals last season. And that really does kind of talk to how the way that this team is moving forward under the ownership of Ryan Finnerty, and kind of the intent that he has with the team just to make those next steps, which is actually another question that came through, is when do you think the Storm will be a contender for silverware?
Ooh, I mean, my literal dream is winning the playoffs.
Yeah.
I've been dreaming that one for like 20 plus years after we lost the final in 2002.
You don't go on about it, it's fine.
We just want to get into the final four. That'll be a big step forward for us this year. I mean, the league, very, very tough to be in contention for the elite league itself. There's so many strong teams with big rosters, bigger budgets, etc. But there's nothing stopping us making a run for the Challenge Cup or the playoffs over a short period of time. And, if you just look at the momentum we've built over the last couple of seasons, if we can keep that going, then I don't think we'll be far away come the end of the season.
I have to say, I agree. I think we've seen some examples recently of teams that have gone and won everything in one season, and they've had just an elite of the elite squad, and they've been able to just run away with every competition that they've been a part of. And I don't necessarily think you need to have the number one team in the league. I'm going to go against the statistics here and say that you don't need to have the number one team in the league to get these competitions, because there's fewer games and they're more one-off, and anything can happen in the playoffs. I think that it can be something that a large amount of teams can win, and I think I'm gonna be very, very optimistic, and I'm gonna say that when we get a look at what the whole full strength squad that we have for this season, it'll be interesting to see how we perform against those big teams, because we know who they are. If we're going to win one of these competitions, we're going to have to beat a Belfast, a Sheffield, a Cardiff. We're going to have to go toe to toe with them, and we're going to have to best them. And I think that in order to do that, we're going to need to see what our full strength team looks like. But I'm quite optimistic, Max.
I am too, and that kind of leads me into the last question I've got for you this week, guys. From people commenting over on Facebook. It's from Kyle, and he asks, looking at the opening few weeks of fixtures, prediction times, what teams do you think will be taking what silverware? That's League, Challenge Cup, and playoffs. It's early. I understand that it's early, but we've had predictions already. So let's put some soft predictions out there.
It's very tricky as well, because we've seen Belfast once, but they had a very injury-plagued roster when they came to us, and they still managed to win, which is always quite intimidating. But I don't know. I know Cardiff are top of the league right now, and they gave us an absolute pasting when they came to the Shelter, but then we've obviously beat them at their place and given them a good game on Saturday. Sheffield, we've stood toe-to-toe with. Nottingham have looked strong when they come to our place, but you don't generally expect the Panthers to be the very top end come the end of the season. Although one of the cups might not be out of the question for those guys. God, it's really difficult. Someone else want to go and actually make a prediction?
I will start. I'll start us off with the league. I think Belfast, personally, in the cup, my heart says Manchester. I kind of think Nottingham are going to get back to their Challenge Cup ways.
The masters of the Challenge Cup.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Panthers on that one. And then
playoffs, Manchester.
For the playoffs, a fairy tale finish for the Storm.
Absolutely. I'll take that all day.
So would I. I think I'm bizarrely more confident for the end of the season. I think the regular season is such a marathon, not a sprint. So I think it would be interesting to see who has the most deep squad, who has the most talent in their roster. And you want to include Sheffield in this. And I notably you
want
didn't.
You might have to. Don't want to.
Choice words. I think Sheffield will be banging on the door of that conversation, whether you want it or not. But I think they've just progressed to the next, at the time of recording, they've just progressed to the next stages of the CHL.
Indeed.
And I think that's going to be something that they're going to want to prioritize, because you would do if you're in that position. And I wonder how much prioritizing the Champions Hockey League will end up having its consequences domestically. I wonder if any teams can pounce. I don't see them winning the overall league either. I would also put that to Belfast. But then with a team that has as much quality as Sheffield, I could easily see them coming good towards the end of the year and potentially having a bit of a playoff run.
It'd be interesting as well, because it depends how deep they go in the CHL. They might go out the next round, so it might not have a big hangover impact on them. But then if they go deep, then absolutely, who knows what impact it could have.
I'm going to make the big, bold headline prediction, though, and say that we do win the Challenge Cup. I think we're currently third, and we have a chance to move up and down, as do the teams above us. I think you've already placed the question marks around Nottingham, so I'm not gonna waste time doing that. But I'm going to say that, like I said, team returns to full strength. Anything can happen, and it's really exciting. So I'm going to cap things off and say that we can have a push for the Challenge Cup.
Aden?
I'm going to say Belfast for the league. It might well be Sheffield, but I can't bring myself to say it. Challenge Cup. I don't know. We just Challenge Cup always seems to come a bit early for us. We tend to get our momentum towards the end of the season. So if I'm going to pick one competition for us to potentially win, I'm taking the playoffs.
enough.
Challenge Cup, give it the Panthers. They're my mates. They can have a cup. As long as we get the playoffs.
Fair enough. Well, that's our predictions and that's our questions for this week. If you guys can think of any more, that's it, you listeners at home. We want you to get involved. The post will be out on Facebook Monday or Sunday, depending on whether I can get them up or not in time. And otherwise, you can find our social medias. Send us a DM if you want to get your questions in as well. That's it for question time.
For now, though, I've been Matty, they've been Max and Aden, respectively. Thank you for listening, and thank you for giving us your time. And until next time, see you later.
That was the Storm Report, brought to you by Storm TV. Tune in next week for more exclusive insights. Tickets on sale now at manchesterstorm.com.